Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible in all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young, and I'm one of your intrepid, seasoned hosts. Joining me, as always, is our other intrepid and seasoned host, Beth Martin. Beth, the pleasure as always. What's the crack?
What's the crack? Happy Friday. Normally record on
We
Tuesday,
do.
so I'm thrown off. I just woke up an hour and a half ago.
Nice. So he's got
I
that
know.
that just woken up energy.
I do.
That's nice.
I'm like cozy and no, I'm like crabby and like I was dreaming about the royal family and
Ooh,
we
any
were all at some
particular?
hunting lodge
That sounds
and
right.
it was like dramatic and whatever. So yeah, it was. I'm on this new antidepressant that like causes me to actually have dreams, and normally they're
Oh no.
nightmares. So this
Uh-huh.
wasn't. It was just like now I think hopefully over the nightmares, but I just keep finding myself in these really uncomfortable positions.
Mm,
Um, so the crack is, are you ready for this?
hit me.
It was American Thanksgiving, United States Thanksgiving last week.
America. Yeah, uh-huh.
Mhm. Um, so I had a friend who's she lost her dog and she wanted to come and
Oh,
see us. I know, it's so sad. Such a good pup. And so she came on Monday. My mom was supposed to fly in Tuesday, and Tuesday morning she woke up and was like, I don't feel right. I had this like B12 shot. Maybe that was what. This is Southern California, so you wander into a store and they just offer you B12 shots,
there's like a guy standing with a tray, just B12 shots on it.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, try one.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Not really, but kind of. So we were blaming it on the B12 shot, and she was like, maybe I should take a COVID test. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, sure, I've got some. Let's just try it. So she's sitting on the couch with the kids and they're watching cartoons. And I looked down at the test, like I was like, it was like lightning hit it. It wasn't like
Hmm.
a gradual, like, oh, maybe. It was just like, she is fucking
Yeah,
positive.
you have
And
COVID.
I was like, hey, Mike, as he's like in the living room. And I was like, come here a minute. It's just like, you can't help but laugh. And
Yeah.
he just looked at me and he like nodded his head and I nodded my head yes. And he was like, bye. And he walked into his office and shut the door. And so I was like, Claudia, you're positive. She's never had COVID before. So she
Right.
was like, she started crying. She was like, and more like she was worried about me and like, if
Sure.
I get it, what would happen? And so I was like, well, let's take another one just to be sure. And again, like lightning struck, and it was just like so positive so fast. So we put her in quarantine in her or my daughter's room. And I think it was Friday night.
Hmm.
I started having like weird symptoms. And like I'd been like fighting a cold all fighting, I'm air quoting, fighting a cold all week. And I was like, but it didn't feel like, you know, like COVID. If you've had it, you know that feeling where you just, ugh, it's awful.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so then I've tested positive. I woke Mike up. I was like, I'm moving into the office. I moved all my stuff into the bathroom that my friend was using so that the rest of the family could use the other bathroom. And I was like, just like grabbed all my chargers and everything to go quarantine. I woke up the next morning. This would be Saturday. I texted Mike, like, I'm awake. And then he just sends me a photo of 4 COVID tests labeled with each person's name in our family, and they
Hmm.
were all positive.
Oh
So
no.
we all had it. So the kids were, yeah, we've just been quarantining. We had to reschedule the recording this, and thank you for being so flexible. But like,
Of course.
I had no brain on Tuesday.
I do remember it, and I remember what a weird feeling it was when I got it. I think I had the same experience as you. Was I did the test, and it was like, bam, here are two very thick lines. You're clearly
You're
COVID riddled, and
pregnant.
you're like, great, just what I wanted to see.
So that's been the crack. But
Yeah.
like I was trying to find the silver linings and like my mom didn't get to come, so
Hmm.
that's not a silver lining, obviously, but we made arrangements for her to come for her birthday. So that'll be, the weather will be better, you know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
beautiful and fabulous. I'm not gonna, I know, right?
It's so
80.
cold here right now.
Sorry. I'm wearing 2 shirts.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So, but really it was being able to take care of my friend who has taken care of me like so many times,
Yeah,
and to be able to return the favor felt good. So
that's
yeah,
good.
she tested negative. We got her on a plane a couple days ago, and then she got home and tested positive again. So now she's got another round. She's got to quarantine for another 10 days.
Wow.
So it's like, you can have my Hulu password, you can have all the passwords, because they don't really have a TV. And she's like, I need something to do. And I was like, yeah. So yeah, that's the crack. COVID is the crack.
It's the crack that keeps cracking, I suppose.
Yeah.
One of the things before we move on, I wanted to circle back to was your dream featuring the Roy family at a hunting lodge. So I want to know what members of the Roy family were there.
It was Harry and it was
Megan?
William.
Oh, okay, William.
And I don't know if their wives were there or not,
Okay.
but I remember like I had homework I had to do for the king, and
Wow.
because the queen had already passed in my dream.
Okay.
And
It's
yeah,
a
it was
modern
like
dream.
there was all this homework I had to do, and I had to get it done before the king came home from
Uh-huh.
like whatever they were doing in the other lodge. And so yeah, I'm trying to like find a quiet place to do homework, and like no one else is doing their homework, and I was so irritated at the princes that they were just
Sure.
like doing
They're just
whatever.
haunting, and while you're trying to do your homework, it's just not fair.
It is not. So yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
I wonder if having dreams about the royal family is like a common COVID symptom, folks, if you've experienced this.
Or just in general,
Yeah,
I'm curious.
interesting.
uh,
No, that's good. So yeah,
what's the crack with you?
yeah.
Crack.
What's the crack with me? So very busy choir stuff as usual. It just seems to be the constant
So you're
refrain.
T minus 13 days. Are we counting today?
Yeah, let's count today. So it's 13 days
Okay.
if we count today. You know, and it's exciting and also terrifying, but it's going well. It's just a lot, as I've always said. This is the constant sort of refrain of what's the crack with me recently. But yeah, it's been good. Apart from that, I think most of the major hurdles have now been cleared, which is nice. Um, so yeah, we're just slowly getting there, but it's been
How
nice.
many pieces are you playing?
Eight, I
Singing.
believe.
Do you have like a do you have like a band, or are
We
you
have an
playing?
accompanist, so he's playing a piano,
Okay. Okay, great.
and we've
It's not
now,
like, okay, someone hit play on the tape
yeah,
deck.
yeah, 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 and we have to be in time with this, and we have to stop and rewind the tape if
All right.
if it goes wrong. No, we've got a very good accompanist, which is nice, and we also have somebody who's going to do a Christmas story for us as well, which is going to be
Ooh.
nice.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's good. But it's like
Can I
one of
ask
these.
you,
Uh-huh,
can I ask you a totally off-topic question?
go for it.
Okay. And we're going to cover this we're going to cover this topic anyway, but I have to know now, what is your favorite Christmas movie?
Ooh, good question. Probably Scrooged.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
I just love I love Bill Murray, and I think that one always made me laugh. I have a really fond
It's so
memory of
funny when the lady's hitting him in the face with the
so
toaster.
good.
So
Uh,
good.
I remember
Just like
seeing,
punching him,
yeah,
beating the shit out of him the whole
so
time.
good. Like it's one of my earliest sort of memories in the cinema, honestly. So I think that's why I've got such an attachment to it, and I
Huh.
really like the ending with the song and everything. It's just quite sweet. It's a movie that kind of never feels to get me Christmassy. I guess the other one would be, and it's obviously a really kind of cliche choice, is It's a Wonderful Life, because
Mhm.
um and I only really ended up watching it properly for the first time. I mean, it's maybe about 15 years or so now. I'd always been put off by the idea, but I loved it so much, and it really kind of captures the spirit of things really nicely. Do you have a favorite?
I do. I'm going to say I have two favorite holiday movies: Gremlins,
Huh, nice.
obviously,
Hmm.
and Die Hard.
Sure. It's a great one. I watched it last Christmas, I think. I think I ended up
Yeah.
watching the whole trilogy. Well, I
Oh,
know
that's
there's more.
good.
I know there's more than the trilogy, but they're the best three for the most part.
Yes.
And then it's
That was
all
one of when Mike
downhill.
asked me out for our first like non-date.
Hmm.
He was like, "Have you seen the new Die Hard movie? Do you want to?" And I was like, "What?" And then I
Yeah.
was like, "Nah, I don't know." And then he was like, "George Carlin live," and I was like, "Okay."
Now we're talking. Yeah, that's definitely the better option of the two. I mean, I'm presuming it was
Mhm.
either Die Hard 4 or Die Hard 5, and they
Die Hard
both.
with a Vengeance, I
Oh,
think.
Die Hard with a Vengeance is not a bad one.
Okay, I need to rewatch it.
It's
We
the one with
bought
Samuel L.
it.
Jackson, and it's
Yeah, I mean
it's
anything with him is
yeah,
good.
it's true. It's true. It's
Okay, yeah.
yes. Anyway, right. Yeah, we're
Back
we're
to your
rambling
crack.
now. Back to my crack. And apart from
Crack.
that, nothing.
Sounds like crap, but it's crack.
It is.
Back to your
But
crap,
it's the
Andy.
opposite. It's the opposite. That's how you know the difference. I guess the other thing is, as I have booked to go to Scotland for a week between Christmas and well, not between, but in that sort of area, New Year's,
Mhm.
which I'm very much looking forward to. It'll just be nice to get out of it because I haven't really been able to do much recently, just because of it's everything else has been so hectic. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Where do you go in Scotland?
So I'm going to be going. I'm going to be spending some time. I'm going to be flying to Edinburgh, but I've got some friends who are in. They're close-ish to Glasgow. I've got my other friends about an hour south of Edinburgh, and another friend who is in North Berwick, I think. I can't remember the names of half these places, which is close to Edinburgh as well. So I'm going to pop
Okay,
around and see a few different people.
good.
Yeah, much needed, and hopefully do lots of hiking and things like that. But the plan is we're going to go to some places I've never been before, which is always kind of fun. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Does Sasha go with you or are you flying?
I'm flying.
Okay.
I would like to take her, but she's getting old now as well. That was a. I
No,
know. I don't even want to think about
we're
that,
not going to
but
talk about it.
no. My friend, somebody had noted me to say that there needs to be more Sasha mentions in the podcast. So I need to get those numbers up. Rookie numbers so far.
I'm not disagreeing.
You know.
I know.
So
The
we'll
kids
work on
were,
it.
I was working on some social media posts for TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're on
Mm.
TikTok, people.
Woo
Please
woo.
check it out. But a lot of them are Sasha videos. So
I mean, that's the big guns, as we call it
I
in
know.
the
That's why I'm
industry.
bringing out the big guns.
The big guns. Just right.
Uh-huh.
So Beth, I guess the other question I need to ask you is what's occurring this
What's
week?
occurring? So we have 5-star reviews on Spotify.
Ooh.
I know. And also 5-star reviews. It's funny, like I this is way into the weeds, but you get like it's called an RSS feed, and
Yep.
that's like your audio feed for your podcast. And then you distribute it to the platforms that you think you're distributing it to, but then no, you're like, it goes beyond that. So we're getting 5-star reviews on all of these like other platforms that I don't even know
Nice.
existed. So we have listeners. I'm not tracking those, and I
Mm-hmm.
guess I should be, but I like looked and like we're getting people are they're liking what they're listening to. So thank you guys
Yep.
for get the feedback and the reviews and all of that. And if we were a restaurant, we would be Michelin chefs.
Makes sense.
True.
It totally makes sense. I
Here we
mean,
are serving you tiny topics
the delectable.
with sea foam on top.
Yeah.
um, you can actually donate to our podcast on Spotify now. We have enough listeners that like little like it's like playing a video game. You get bonus things. So this little bonus chest opened, and now you can
Ooh.
if you want to honestly help us just grow this thing into something bigger. It does cost money, and I'm not complaining because we're doing this for the fun of it.
Yep.
But if this could pay for our Zoom, that would be
Mm-hmm.
amazing. So I will it's on Spotify. I will figure out a way to add that to our website as well. And then I'm going to say this wrong. Andy,
Mm-hmm.
what's
Tell me.
the thing that where people donate to your
Patreon.
Patreon.
Yep.
So
Patreon.
we're gonna start the Patreon next year, and that will be the actual video recordings of us picking our noses,
Yep.
wiping our
Yep.
butts, and looking at Andy's board games.
Yep. Yeah. Well, very much so. You can pick out what board games I have in the background.
I'd be like, what the F are you playing? So that's happening. One of our listeners in Australia said that they call sweets and candies, just to piggyback on last week's episode, which was candy versus sweets versus candy. They said that in Australia you call them lollies.
Yes.
Not you, but the general you.
We call them lollies here too.
Well, no, like all sweets and candy.
Oh, really?
I know.
How interesting.
And
I had
so
no
they were
idea.
like, what do you call, like, what do you call, what do you have lollies in your, and that's why I sent you the message. And I
Yeah.
was like, do you have lollies? And for you, it's ice pops.
Yeah.
For us, it's lollipops.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
barely, if I said lolly, like, do you have a lolly or do you want a lolly? Like literally no one would know what I'm talking about.
No.
So I think that maybe was a thing here like a generation or two ago, but has faded.
Wow.
So I know.
Are they called? Do you call them like ice pops and stuff now, or
No. We
no?
call
Okay.
them no, we call them popsicles.
Popsicles. Yes. Okay. So interesting how these
More,
things just fade away,
I
or just kind of
know.
just get filtered out. And then it's like, you'll hear parents say them, and it'll be like, well, what are you saying? Nobody says that anymore.
No. So I thought that was interesting. So
Yeah.
some cross-cultural information for everyone.
It is.
So yeah, that's what's occurring.
That's awesome. We got as well, and I sent it through to Beth. My friend shared me there at the end of the year. On Spotify, you can get like your top 5 lists in a variety of categories, and one of them is podcasts.
Maybe they're lifts.
Maybe they are lifts.
They feel good,
right? Yeah, they do. They lift your spirits, or that's the idea. And one of those people had Bendy in their top 5 podcasts for the year, which is very exciting. Very nice to see. So yeah, you join the team. The other thing I was going to add, just before you move on to our topic, is that if we do start a Patreon or whatever, don't at me. I don't care. You understand what I'm saying. The 2 things that the money's going to go for is, number 1, Zoom, and our expenses. Number 2, cute outfits for our dogs. So
yes,
it's pretty critical that you send us money in that case. Do you know what I mean? Do you think these dogs can survive without cute outfits? I mean,
all
the jury's
Star
out.
has, it's true. All she has is a taco costume. That's it.
Every
year she's taco dog, and it's very sad.
Like Sasha's got like 3. I think I have seen a photo of Star's taco costume.
I think I sent it to you. Yeah,
we did. But like
for
Sasha's,
Halloween.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we just get sad or like need to pick me up, and then we just like velcro her into her little taco costume.
Let's dress the dog up as a taco. It probably works every time, I'm guessing.
It's like she gets so many treats, so she's just after she doesn't notice that it's on.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
So yes, please support our dogs' costumes, and if so, we will take photos of our dogs and put them on the interwebs for everyone. Okay, so do you want to dive into our topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
So last week was True Tales of Tragic Travel, but we didn't have enough time. So this is True Tales of Tragic Travel, Chapter 2.
Part 2.
Part 2. And I think we should start with Peru.
Okay, sure.
It's like I keep meaning to talk about this like every episode, so I think let's just hit it hard. Hit it hard, Andy.
Let's just go right into it. Okay, so just to background it a wee bit, for people, this was the start of the year 2020. What's interesting about that year is that because I just got out of a relationship the previous year, and at the start of that year, I had made a plan of I'm going to do a trip every month this year. Oh, how naive! And I had went. At least one of those trips was to London to see my friend wrestle. I'd seen her wrestle a little bit before, but this was like a big sort of event she was doing, which was amazing. I had done something else pretty interesting in those other months as well, at least like weekends away, more locally and things like that. But I had been doing things. And then I had booked to go to Peru with one of my good friends. It's a trip I'd be really looking forward to. It was for me. The way I was looking at it was going to be a complete reset because traveling is that for me. It can really help me get out of my head and kind of make sense of things a little bit more. So I was very much looking forward to it. I had an idea of what I kind of needed to get out of it, which is again, you make plans and it always, what is it? People make plans and God laughs or something like that.
Yeah, you make plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
Like last week when I was like, I give myself permission not to do all the things, and then I got COVID.
Yeah. And it's always the way, always, especially if you go in with expectations. So yes. Anyway, so I got on a flight, and it was actually, and I don't know that I told you this or whether you know this. I think I flew on Friday the 13th.
That's the day I got COVID.
Is it really? No
yes.
way.
Parallel lives, Andy.
It is. So I got over and we went. I met my friend in Lima, and we traveled about Lima. We had about 2 days in Lima, completely fine. Though Lima was kind of a trip actually because it was so like there was so many like police and like such a like strong sort of military presence in a way that I hadn't really seen in a lot of other countries I've traveled to, which was interesting, and it made us like we were excited to like get away from Lima as quickly as possible.
Explain what military presence in Lima looks like, would you?
So in this case, and the reason why it was most striking was it was a lot of almost like riot police. So riot police would be like with the big riot shields and like those big helmets with the massive visors and stuff like that, like specifically looking
like riot.
Yeah.
Okay.
To deal with like civil unrest, I guess, more than anything.
Like Banksy would throw up on a wall.
Exactly. Okay. Like those. Yeah, you see the guys dressed like that in some of his artwork, actually. Yeah. So it was just a lot of that, and it was so heavy in a way that was just made me a little uncomfortable. It's one of those things I almost completely forgot about because of everything else that happened after this. But I remember looking back at photos and going, oh yeah, that was kind of nuts. Okay. So we went to, we arrived on the Friday. I met my friend. We hung out on the Friday and the Saturday. We traveled to Cusco on the Sunday. We arrived in Cusco about midday. We went and we were aware that COVID was really starting to pick up pace and people were starting to worry about it and people were starting to stress. And we were like, we're going to try and get one holiday in under the wire before everything kicks in, because we both needed it, And so we were, but we didn't think things were going to get quite as kind of crazy as they did quite as quickly. And like I was basically led to believe, like, as soon as we left that Saturday or that weekend in particular was when the UK was really like, things are getting really serious here. We're going to have to start taking some really major action. So anyway, I was in Cusco on the Sunday. We had a nice day. There was this kind of nice square in the center of Cusco, and we had coffee there overlooking the square. It was lovely. It was like filled with people. Went to sleep that night in our Airbnb. I sleep terribly, especially after travel. And I woke up in the middle of the night, checked my messages, and there was a message saying that our trip to Machu Picchu on the Monday had been cancelled because of the COVID outbreak. And I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, cool. We'll just go to another travel agent and we'll find another place that will take us to Machu Picchu, no problems. So we woke up the next day. I was trying to search for info. I'd heard like that the government had done a bit of a lockdown. I saw like a snippet of information, but because most of it was in, forgive me, either Spanish or Portuguese, I'm not too sure what their language is there. I couldn't find any information in English, and some of the translation sites weren't great. So I couldn't figure out exactly what was going on. So we went and we went and have coffee, and we were able to get into coffee shops and things like that, but so much was closed, and there was police going around telling places to close.
Wow.
So we found, and even that day was an outlier because there was still some stuff open. There's some restaurants open and things like that. But then as that day went on, it kind of dawned on us just how bad it was. Like we were like, oh no, everything's closed down. completely. We started looking to see if we could get transport out, either a bus or a plane. They were completely locked down. Like they were like all sort of internal transport and external transport was completely closed down. And we just started panicking because we were like, oh no, we've got this Airbnb for like 2 or 3 days and we have no idea what's going to happen, how we're going to get out of this country. So it was, I was, say I was already going there in a kind of fairly stressed out state of mind. So it was just the worst possible thing that could happen in that way. And we ended up then finding an Airbnb, not an Airbnb, sorry, a hostel. We were in an Airbnb. We found a hostel that we could stay in, and we knew that they had a kitchen. And also because, not thinking entirely straight, they also had a bar. It was an Irish hostel. This was a huge mistake in terms of the decision that I made. Like my friend who was there, she had found a yoga hostel, and I was like, oh, why didn't I go to that? Why didn't I go to the yoga hostel? Anyway, so we went to this Irish hostel and it was a bit dingy, but it was fine. And as I say, the bar was nice. The people were nice. The staff were lovely. And they served food and things like that. So it was great. It was, it was really good in that regard. But we were stuck there and it was so hard to get information. So we were hearing all these stories of the scariest story of them all. And this is going to kind of relate to how this all sort of ends. Was that we heard about a hostel where they'd found a few cases of COVID and they essentially locked the hostel down so completely that the people who were there were stuck in their dorm rooms for 23 hours out of the day, were allowed an hour out of like sunlight and whatever, but were just completely locked down in their bunks for 23 hours. And I was like, that would possibly literally kill me. And it was very scary. So we were able to like go about in the town and stuff like that. And there was pharmacies were open, supermarkets were open. So we were able to buy stuff, do a bit of cooking. We were
Get
able to,
food, and you
yeah,
had the
get some
kitchen.
food. Yeah. And get, drugs and stuff like that. Which was, I suppose, pretty critical, but like everything else was completely closed. One of the things that was nice, was that like, and I think you see these pictures was like, there are a lot of like stray dogs and stuff like that in Cusco, and I took pictures of them, and I like got treats just to go around and feed the dogs and stuff like that, just to look out for these dogs, and also it was something to do. But it was some days you would go out, and the police would like literally stop you, ask what you were doing. If it wasn't critical in their eyes, they would send you back. Some days it was a lot more open. You could go for larger walks and things like that. But it was always like such an eerie. You're in a town that's completely foreign to you, and the streets are dead. So that square that we'd seen in the first day was completely barren. And like, there's a photo. There's an article about me on the BBC website because the BBC contacted me. I had a friend who's a journalist, and the BBC contacted me and wrote up my story, and I took a photo of that square, and like, it is so unusual. There's no people in that square. It was just nuts, really nuts. So we had about a week and a half of that. The hostel was just grim. It was just dirty and nasty. And I think I've told Beth this story before. Like, I every time I stay in a hostel, or I have done in the past 10 years or so, I'm like, this is it. I'm never staying in a hostel ever again. What was I thinking? I think this one really has been the topper, in that one of the very kind of last nights I was there, I was in my bunk, and in the room, like off to my right, people were having sex, and and on the other side of the wall, in the bed to the left of me, people were having sex. So I was hearing like stereo banging, and it was like, this is awful.
Like
This is,
I'm single.
yeah, exactly.
I'm stuck in
I'm,
a hostel.
I'm depressed. I'm hearing multiple people having sex. I'm trying to sleep. It's like, wow. Okay, great. And so, like, in terms of this holiday that was meant to lift my spirits, it couldn't have been any worse. So it eventually got to the end. We were close to the end. This is about 2 days before I ended up leaving. We were
And
told,
You were
Sorry.
there for, at this point, you'd been there for how long?
I'd say about 12 days at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were told basically they had a meeting in the hostel and they said we're shutting the hostel down and you're gonna have to leave. Because like the police were going to come and we're going to check it out. And if they found anybody who tested positive for COVID, it was going to be, they were going to lock the hostel down, and that was going to be a nightmare for everyone. So we were like, let's get out of here. Like, you had drones flying overhead, and we were led to believe they were police drones checking to see what was going on in these places. And we had people, it being an Irish hostel, mooning the drones. Do you know what I mean? Taking their, and it's like, great, thanks guys. Way to like not draw attention to our insane situation. So we were told to clear out. Hard to get an Airbnb under the circumstances. We did manage to get something. Some of the other folk we were with managed to get a house themselves, and me and my friend managed to get two beds in this sort of room. And she's Japanese, and basically, so like, credit where credit's due to the UK government. They were like, we're putting on repatriation flights. Here's the deal. If you're out here, you're a UK citizen, we're going to get you back. We're not going to give you the details of it just yet, but we're working on making this happen. Whereas the Japanese response was basically, oh, you got out there? Oh, well, tough. That was a bit stupid. What did you do that for? You'll have to figure your own way out. Like, even she was telling me on like Japanese Twitter and things like that, people were just like, you idiot, why should we pay for your stupid mistake, sort of thing. And they weren't prepared to help Japanese the populace at all. There was some people who were
Wow.
there, I know, nuts. So she had to end up paying, I think, about $6,000 just to get to Mexico, and then she had to fly from Mexico back to Japan. Unfortunately, Mexico wasn't locked down at that stage, so it was easier to get a flight from there back to Japan. But $6,000 US to fly from Peru to Mexico is nuts. So, but at least she was able to get out, which I was worried about. So she got out a day before me, and I knew that there being one of the repatriation flights had flown the day previous.
So this was it.
Hmm?
This was like
Yeah,
essentially the flight that you were trying to get on was the last flight
yeah.
out
And
for months.
they said after this they had no idea when they would next be flying out. There was no time soon, plenty months and months away. So I said, basically that night I was waiting for my flight. I saw her off that morning, and I was basically stuck in this apartment watching like Netflix until like 10:30 that night, until I finally got an email saying, we're okay, you're on the repatriation flight, you've got to be here. And it was like getting the email then, and it was like, you need to be at this point at this place for 6 a.m. And it's like, oh wow, okay, awesome, I guess I'll try and sleep now.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, then we made our way there, and it was like such a kind of, because it was, the whole population was in such lockdown, it was such a kind of prolonged process to make our way through the airport, to get on the plane. We then flew to Lima to pick up more UK folks, and we sat in the tarmac for hours and hours and hours, and finally got back to London. But it was deeply stressful. It was like a very interesting experience, and like a unique, and one, in a way, in hindsight, I'm kind of glad I've had, because it was unlike anything else I've experienced before. But I wouldn't wish it on anyone either.
I mean, from the perspective of your friend that was sort of going through this with you as you were going through it, because you were keeping a few of us kind of in the loop on what was
Yeah,
happening, it was terrifying.
it was.
And I remember you saying like you would leave the hostel, you were trying to do your laundry,
Yes.
and like there would be armed guards that would be like, what are you doing? They would have like their guns, and like you're like, I'm just trying to do, like, I'm trying to do my laundry and feed
And
the
they're like,
dogs along the way. And it was just like, I couldn't, it was scary. And I remember, I think you at one point said like the next plane may not be for like 3 months.
yes.
And you were trying to figure out like what with your job, what that was going to look like, and like
Yeah.
how are you going to do all that. And like your first, and also like to your credit, like your first priority was getting your friend out.
Yeah.
And like you were just like, I'm not going to leave until she's like, I know she's got a plan and she's able to get out. And
Yeah.
so
It was
you're a
definitely
good
so much.
friend,
Yeah, I'm all right. It
but
was
it was scary.
it was definitely way sketchier for her in terms of like the reality for her getting out
Yeah.
than me,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah.
I was very glad that that happened.
And it's just like, you know, just because she's your friend, like she couldn't have gotten on that plane with you because she's not a UK citizen, right?
Exactly.
So it's like things at that point were so like they were really trying to make it very, very black and white.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really, you know, a margin for, you know, keeping friends and family together, which is
No,
that's a whole thing.
it is. It
So
really is.
I'm really glad it's over. I'm gonna I will post your BBC
Yeah. We should post.
information and interviews and that
I,
great photo you took of yourself
oh
and the
yeah, that's true.
dogs.
It is a good photo, actually. I have to say, I'm not often kind to my own photos, but it is a good photo. We should also post. I don't know if I've made them public. I think I have the videos that I did maybe as well. So I did like a
I
video
don't
diary
know.
thing
Yeah, I'll
on
look.
YouTube. If I'll send them to you
Okay.
if we don't. But yeah. So yeah, that was my Peru story. A fun one. In terms of the terrible trips, that was definitely high on the list.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It is.
Okay, so I'm just gonna tell my COVID story too, because
Yep.
we're on it. We're on the subject. So the week before, it was like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So like around the 7th of March, 6th of March, things in the United States were also kind of like, we were like, is this a thing? Is this really happening? You know, like how it was just, it was hard to gauge. The messaging was not, from our government was not, this is a big deal. It was like, it's all going to be fine. This doesn't really mean anything. It's all going to be over. Everything's fine. And so had I known that, I probably wouldn't have gone to Las Vegas that weekend of March 6th, 7th. But we ended up going, and Mike had this whole thing planned. So we ended up going to a Rod Stewart concert, and he was like, I got us matching white suits. Have I told you this? Have I told
I don't
this
think I've
story?
known about the match and white suits.
Yes. So yeah, so we looked so fly that we had like nosebleed seats. The staff came up to us and they were like, you look so good. We're moving you down to the like third row. And
Nice.
we're like, holy moly. And a fun fact about Rod Stewart, he loves trains so much. Have I told you this?
I think I've heard this independently, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember, so what he does, and I think this is why he's so successful and didn't just like become a drug addict, but he actually will travel with giant sections of his model railroad that he's been working on like for, I don't even know how many years, 30 years, 40 years, something. And he's, what he's making is a replication of the Industrial Revolution in the United
Wow.
States. Very specific, right? And I remember reading like he's like, yeah, I'm a rock star, but the thing that I'm most proud of is that I've been on the cover of Model Railroad magazine like 3 times.
That's awesome.
And so like the show is going on, we're in the third row, I'm crying Maggie May, he like waves at me, I cry more, it's amazing. And in the back, like they always have like the screen that's playing, and like it's his fucking railroad and like all the trains and everything, and it's all coming
Wow,
together. Yeah.
wow.
It's like it's that good, it's that amazing. And like he travels, yeah, with the big sections, he gets a hotel room specifically for the train sets. And then when he's done with whatever, you know, everyone else is partying or whatever, and he goes and he, you know, keeps working on his train set. So I just love that about him.
That's great.
And his music is amazing.
Yeah.
But just like someone who is so into like,
it's very wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very wholesome.
So
it was a great show. Then we ended up at Benihana. Do you guys have Benihana?
we don't, but I know what it is, and we do have restaurants like that.
Yeah, so I think this is the next day, and it was literally the worst meal that I've ever had.
No,
Like
really?
one of the grills was broken on the big skillet. They have like a
Yeah.
giant skillet where they cook everything in front of you, and they have like an onion tower, and they light it
Yeah.
on fire, and they serve it up, and like it. I saw none of that. I saw none of that. So I think we were sitting there trying to get a meal for like 3 hours. So
Mm.
we're just like, okay, let's just keep drinking and like get through this. And the people sitting at our table were bitching and complaining and so insanely rude and like close talking to me,
Gosh.
right? So um so it was either Rod Stewart or Benihana where I know I got COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday the 13th was the day that I tested positive for COVID. And that's when they were like, school is shutting down, everything is shutting down, and all of the doctors' clinics are closing. So that was a whole, and I will tell my long COVID story at another point,
Yeah.
but that was Las
That was
Vegas
that was ground
COVID.
zero. Ground zero
That was
for
ground zero, yeah.
I would say like Vegas is probably responsible for a lot of COVID cases.
Probably. I mean, it's like it's a destination,
It is, and
it's an
like people from
international.
all over, yeah, come. So
Yeah,
it
like you
doesn't,
walk around in the streets and everyone is speaking a different language, and
yeah.
it's the coolest thing. Uh, have I
Well,
been back since? Here. Have I been back
I,
since?
you know,
I think I have. Yes, I think I have.
I've only been there once, and I was underage at
Oh,
the time. Yeah, it
no.
was. So it was like you kind of missed the point of Vegas, I guess, because you can't
Hmm.
gamble and you can't drink,
Yeah. Well, I
and
mean, you can do other things. No, you probably couldn't do that either. I mean, I actually don't gamble. I like the shows. My dream is to drive a tank. I'm such an American.
oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry. My dream is to drive a tank over like some really like beat up Chevys
yeah,
and just like feel that power.
yeah, that would be pretty rad.
Yeah, I know, right? So maybe if you come, we'll split the $2,000 it costs to,
Yeah,
to
let's do
bust
it.
up some cars.
All right, sweet, perfect, worth every penny.
I know, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, that is my Benihana Rod
it's a good
Stewart
one.
COVID story. Yeah.
Um, the other one I was going to talk about, and I mentioned it a little bit last week, was my kind of other North Korea experience. And I think it's this more, I mean, I think both were good sort of insights into what North Korea is and kind of like the sort of place it was. But this one was a weekend long trip. Essentially, there is a mountain just over the border that is quite famous, I think, for Koreans like across, North Korea and South Korea. It's one of the things I find whenever I was in Korea was like Koreans really love like hiking, generally speaking.
Mhm.
Um, like even Gangwon, where I was, a lot of people would bus out at the weekends to go hiking and things like that. So there was still quite a bit of demand. Excuse me. There was quite a bit of demand for these trips over the border by South Koreans just to kind of still hike on this mountain. So when we went on this trip, there was basically like a sort of a company called Adventure Korea that kind of put together trips for foreigners, I guess, living there, mostly like English language teachers and whatnot.
Mhm.
And
Adventure Korea.
Adventure Korea, right? I did a lot with them, and they were really great, and the people that ran it were really nice. So it was a lovely way to see and do things that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Oh, I should maybe talk about the Mud Festival afterwards. Anyway,
The what?
Mud Festival, yeah. So, anyway, so so basically, but the reason why I mentioned that is that basically when we went on this trip, it was basically a convoy of buses that were going. So I think 8 to 10 buses were essentially going to this sort of place. As we were to find out, the place we were staying was essentially like a compound. It was completely walled. Like within it, there was convenience stores. There was like I think a bar. There was restaurants and things like that. There was a couple of hotels. But it was like this is the area that you're allowed in. You're not allowed to go beyond that. So we went there. But as we were traveling to any of the places, so basically when we first got there, there was I'd say a soldier about a quarter of a mile. Every quarter of a mile, there was a soldier standing at the side of the road on either side. And what they were there to do was to prevent us. We were told if you take a photograph, they will stop the bus, they will come onto the bus, they will find who did it, and you could get arrested for this, and then that's very, very serious. Of course, people on our bus were still taking photos, the idiots, but nobody got caught, thankfully. So going to this compound, then we went to like a few areas of natural beauty. We went to the mountain on the Sunday, but we went to this beach that's kind of quite famous, and it was like filled with like just like barbed wire fences that had like, and it had like
It's filled
signs,
with barbed wire fences.
right? And there was like, and you would see like gun emplacements and things like that, and various, and like you were strict. There was guards with you. There was like North Korean supervisors there who were making sure you weren't taking photos of those things. And the thing I remember,
can I just ask, like, why can't you take photos? What are they afraid of?
I think they're afraid of you being a spy of some kind who's taking a photo of where their gun emplacements are for
Gotcha.
an attack or something like that, was the
Gotcha.
context I was given. Whether that's true or not, that's what I was told.
Okay.
But there was like a lot of these fences as well. They were barbed wire, but a lot of them had signs basically saying these are also electrified. But the guy was saying that the vast majority of them aren't really electrified, just because they don't have the sort of grid that can support that sort of thing, you know. So they're like only electricity running through them sometimes. It was just such a weird setup. But we in the compound, it was kind of nuts because I was mostly with like Americans and things like that. So it was just a kind of, these Americans are like
terrible travelers. The worst.
We were just having fun, and like, but I remember going for a walk, and there was this like statue of like Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il, I can't remember. And we asked a guard to take a photo of us, and he just started going through my photos and asked me about a few photos and said, "What is this?" And like, because I had accidentally taken a photo of the cup holder in the bus because it was just like fiddling around with my camera, and he was like, "What's this picture?" He was like, "What could this be? It's very suspicious, but is this a key?" And I'm like, "No, it's a cup holder." It's for like setting your cup in. It's like he's kind of satisfied with that.
Was
And
your like rabbit heart like
yeah,
yeah?
because there's so much. Anytime you had an interaction, it was like, this is super scary because I just don't know what I'm in store for.
Mhm.
And I remember us sitting with we went to a restaurant, and there was a guy there who was like a member of I think it's the Communist Party that the family kind of is the head of. I can't remember exactly, but he had a pin as part of that kind of party. He was like an official party member, and he was like sitting and talking to us, and and I was kind of like just being very general, but some people were asking really kind of like questions that guy probably couldn't answer, and he was just avoiding them. He was just like ignoring them. But I remember sitting with him, and he brought snake whiskey to the table, which was like whiskey that had a full snake inside of it.
I've had a rattlesnake tequila before.
Grim. It was very grim. But it was just a really
Supposed to be really good for arthritis.
oh, interesting.
I
Is that
know.
why?
Apparently.
But it was
I
such a
tried some and I don't have arthritis, so
well, that's why but I do. So they were 50-50. But it was yeah, but it was but then again, we because of the nature of it, and because it was convoy based, we didn't have to deal with as much of the border stuff on this occasion. Um and I've got to say, the mountain walk that we went on was absolutely stunning. It was so totally beautiful. And I my other clear memory of that was there was a river there, and I topped up my water bottle with river water, and it was the freshest, most cleanest water I've ever tasted.
it was like North Korea beer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They serve fine beverages. But it was an incredible trip. I mean, both those trips were such a wild experience, and like, I saw so much. It was just, I mean, like, obviously you were getting a sort of what sort of look for? Not cultivated, I guess. No, I can't remember. It's not the word I'm actually looking for. But you were getting a version of Korea that was not exactly, or North Korea that was not exactly real. But even within that, you could see a little bit of the reality as well, and it was kind of.
You could say like I know the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like
curated.
Curated.
Maybe it's curated experience. We'll leave that all in, right? Or should I cut it? We'll find out. Let's find out. So Yeah, so that's so but like even within that, you could definitely see the cracks around there, and you could see elements of the reality of that situation, which were kind of, scary and interesting at the same time. But yeah, it's just such a fascinating look into a world that you just so dramatically different than anything else I kind of knew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. And I you're like the best river water, the best beer.
It was.
I
Still talk about that beer.
know. Okay, so I'm gonna take this in a different direction,
Yep.
take us to the ocean.
Nice.
So we spend a fair amount of time in the South Pacific because Mike worked there. And so we go usually once a year. And this might have been our honeymoon. So this was like 14 or some. I'm gonna get I don't really remember how long we've been married. Sorry, Mike. Sometime
Yeah.
in the past for a number of years. So we flew into Tahiti. From Tahiti, you can hop off to these other little islands or atolls. An atoll is like it's basically like an ancient volcano that's
Yes.
slowly sinking into the ground. So you have the top ring of the volcano, and that's where, that's the land. And
Yeah.
they're everywhere. There are a lot of them out there, and a lot of them are used just for coconut farms.
Oh,
And
nice.
so
Okay.
you'll go to one, and if no one lives there, the farmers come in either by boat or by plane, get all the coconuts, harvest them, plant more, get out of there, kind of thing. And so I've kind of got two stories with this. So we went to this atoll called Fakarava, which is the best name of any atoll ever, obviously. And there's a North Pass and a South Pass, and there are these little crags where the fish can get in and out.
Hmm.
So depending on the tide, you'll get sharks, but I'm not talking like 5 sharks. I'm talking like 200. And
Wow.
so I think it's the North Pass. They took us up there, and I just saw a lot. So I'm just kind of go into a lot of this.
Hmm.
Um, they take us up there. It's probably like a 2-hour boat ride on a Zodiac boat, and it's me and Mike and a bunch of folks from France. And I remember at one point, like we're at the North Pass, we're eating lunch, we're getting ready to go out on the boat to go to the pass. And at one point I see a pig on a he's got his little, I don't know, it's not a leash, but
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
just call it a leash. It was a
I
rope,
was,
a piece of rope.
I was,
It was
I
tied
was,
to a tree.
when you said peg on it, I was hoping the word I was hoping next for was surfboard.
Okay. Pig on a surfboard.
Yeah.
So the pig is by the water,
Uh-huh.
and it's just kind of hanging out being a pig. And like in the water, I just see a fin, right? And so this nice little pig that's tied to a tree that's sitting in the shade is literally being stalked by a shark. And at some
Wow.
point, if it gets close enough, that a shark can come out of water and just eat whatever it wants. And it was just like one of those moments that I was just, I'm never going to see this again, right? I'm never going to see a pig being stalked by a shark.
Yeah.
Um, so then they take us out on the boat, and um, that story I'm not going to tell.
Okay. Well, that's for our
I
Patreon subscribers next
think
year, right?
have I told you the bounty bar story with Mike? I think I
I
will in
think you
another.
may. Yeah,
Yeah,
but anyway,
okay.
come.
So this is the same place. So they drop us down, and they literally drop you down, and you're 80 feet underwater, and
Hmm.
you're surrounded by all these sharks, and they're catching the fish as they're coming into the atoll.
Are these big sharks? Are they sizable? Yes, they are.
I
Okay.
would say probably like 8 to 10 feet.
Oh, okay, that's big. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, and so it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, well, I'm never gonna, like, where in the world can I? There's a reason people go there, right? And it's
Yeah.
for the amazing diving, and it's very much untouched by man, and you get to see these things. And so I'll throw some photos of. I have video, actually. It's pretty
Nice.
cool. Yeah. And then they were like, now we're going to take you to this other atoll, and it's a coconut farm. I think it's called Tuao. We were like, okay. And then our dive instructor, his name is Serge, he's great. He was like, oh, I'm not going to do a horrible French accent, even though I could. He was like, do you know the trick with a water bottle? And we were like, no. And he's like, oh yeah, you get like an empty water bottle, and then you bring it down underwater, and then you squish it with your hand, and it sounds like a fish in distress, and all the sharks will come. And I was like, cool, sharks will come, not thinking
Right, the sharks are
I'm
going to
the
come.
this sort of sharks are going to come, right?
Yeah.
Or what kind of shark will come, right?
Yeah.
So we go, we drop down, we're at like maybe 60 feet, and all of a sudden I look down and I see this giant hammerhead shark swimming literally up towards me.
Wow.
And Serge is squishing the bottle and making the distress fish sound. And I look around, and it's me and these French dudes and Mike, and I'm the little fish. And I'm the one that's the farthest down. I'm the one that's closest to this hammerhead. And it's, it sees us and is like, whoa, and kind of like freaks out and swims away. And I was like, okay, cool. So we keep swimming and we're diving. I'm like one with nature, and it's awesome. And then I look up and I see another one coming. But this one is like, it's kind of like a lion on the savannah that's like, whoa, what's that? Let me check it out.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's swimming towards us. And I was like, oh my God. I've never felt this like adrenaline of being hunted before. And it totally like swims by and kind of like it's checking us out. I just like get as low to the coral as I can. I know you're not supposed to touch coral, but I'm like flapjacking that coral.
Yeah.
I'm laying it down as low as I can go. And it just like keeps swimming and goes on by. But I know that it's still out there. And so the whole rest of the dive, which I still have like 30 minutes on my tank, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
looking behind me. And it didn't come after us again. But we got it on photo. I got photos of this
That's
giant
amazing.
hammerhead. It was like 14 to 16 feet. It was so fucking big. I've never been so scared. And then we came up, and Mike was like, and Mike's done probably like 4,000 dives. Like he's pretty seasoned. And he was like, you did good. He was like, I was waiting. He was like, most people would have swum to the surface, freaked out and been like, I'm out of here. But you didn't. You were cool. You were calm. You were collected. He was like, now I really know I don't have to worry about you. And I was like, this is what it takes. Like,
yeah.
drag me to the middle of nowhere
and put a hammerhead beside me.
Put a hammerhead literally like 3 feet. And okay, that's my story.
That was awesome. I think it's because I've only seen tiny sharks in the water, and
They're not scary. They have a bad rep.
Yeah, I think sharks generally, isn't it? They say that like or wasn't it like Steven Spielberg has said he regrets making Jaws because it made people scared of sharks, and it has negatively impacted them, and really they're not that bad or that dangerous for the most part.
No. Yeah. And now they're tagging so many of them. And like here in San Diego, they're like, oh my God, there's like great whites everywhere. And I'm like, that's just because you're tracking them and you're noticing it. Like they were there before. They were there before. So they're all out there.
Yeah. Just chilling, just eating fish.
Yeah.
Living their lives.
Thing. Maybe a sea lion here too.
Yeah.
Here, there, but I really do like swimming with sharks, I will say. It's quite something.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, I think the closest, and it was only scuba diving, I was with manta rays before, which was really cool. They were really big. It was the first time I've kind of been in the water with something of that size, and it's kind of staggering and humbling sort of experience. It
is. And the fact that we've not explored, I mean, I get that it's kind of like skiing to me, where it's like only certain people can afford it, and that bothers me. I was lucky in that Mike was an instructor at the time that we started dating, and so I learned for free, but I would never have paid like $2,500 US to learn how to do this. But I sure am glad I did.
Absolutely.
Not pay, but did take the class and did get all the certifications and all of that. So
that's awesome.
What you got?
So I guess, I mean, like my big ones are I've kind of done all the ones I really wanted to get into. I am trying to think. Yeah, I
Why don't you do the one in Costa Rica where we snuck out for Jessica's birthday?
yeah, I God, yeah, we could talk about Costa Rica. Yeah, no, the one, well, I was going to talk a little bit about, I think I mentioned it a little bit last week. Just the one I was wanting to do was Tunisia, because it was my first sort of experience with
What?
yeah, like I've only been there, like it was in a very, I think
Where?
Tunisia,
What?
so it's like North Africa.
Oh, gotcha.
So and it was one of my very first holidays with my like part with my ex with the girl I was dating at the time, and um it was very resort based, and which is what they have holidays I think most people end up doing initially, but I soon got really bored of. And I have two memories of that trip. One that made me really happy because like I was not like an athletic guy, but I used to walk and stuff like that. And I had like a t-shirt. I used to like buy a lot of like thrift shop t-shirts and things like that. And I had this t-shirt that said Running Royals. And this guy came up to me and asked me if I was a Royal Marine. And I was like, oh,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, thanks very much. I'm like, I'm certainly not a Royal Marine, but I'm like, wow, thanks very much. And um the the other isn't that mad? Like it's insane like anybody would think that of me. But the other kind of clear memory I have of that is going to Tunis on a day trip and how chaotic that city was, like it's their capital city, and going into some of the markets and how overwhelming and intense that experience was. It was my first sort of true sort of experience in a foreign culture. And I mean, even that was you were protected. There was guides and stuff around keeping an eye on you, but it was still very intense in a way that I hadn't kind of experienced in my life. And it was just like, I think because of that, and because I was like hyper aware and looking around what was happening, I have such a kind of, it still sticks in my head so clearly, getting off that bus, seeing that big street, seeing it like filled with people, it was very, and that's unfortunately the only experience I've had with Africa, and it's something I need to remedy, but it's glued in there.
Yeah, it's great. I would go back. Mike's like, I don't know, but I would love to take the kids and just and there's no place like it. There's just no place like it. I did find the pictures of the like no wheelchairs in the crocodile
Oh yes,
pit.
yes.
So I'll post those.
Please
I've got
do.
all those ready to go.
Okay, awesome. Do you have another one? I'm just
I do actually. I've got more than
I'm looking at the time thing. If you've got one more,
I've got a short one.
Okay, yeah.
So we were in we go to Moorea for this is a little island in the South Pacific. It's called Moorea, meaning yellow lizard. We go there every Christmas just to get out of the United States and all of the Christmas stuff, which we'll talk about at some point. So we are Mike worked there. We have friends there. We were borrowing. Well, I'm not going to go there. Anyways, we were on a boat. I'm not going to say whose it was, or what university. Haha. Oh, yeah. And we're like, oh, let's go feed the stingrays and sharks today. Like that's one of the things we do. They're there. All the tourists go out there, but Mike knows about it because he lived there for so long. And I always bring a little bucket full of some like nice high grade tuna to feed them. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but whatever. So the joy I get from dumping the chum bucket on Mike is like, I love it so much. So we're out there, we're feeding, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, the weather's turning, and we're not that far from land, right?
Yeah.
Like if we had to swim, we could have, but we also had at the time an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, 5-year-old. Yeah, 8 and 6. So the weather's turning, we're on the boat, and we've got life jackets, we've got, all the safety equipment because Mike is the Boy Scout of the ocean. He's just a Boy Scout of the Boy Scouts generally. And The boat is metal,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden I hear thunder and I see lightning hit. And we both look at each other, and he's like, it's time to get out of the boat. Everybody get on a life jacket and swim away 30 feet from the boat, and we're just going to ride this out. And so we strap the kids in, we put them in the water. We're surrounded by sharks and stingrays. And literally, like, monsoon hits, lightning,
Jeez.
thunder. The kids are we circle up, we all grab each other, we're in, like, huddled, right? Because you don't want to be the
I
little
drift.
fish, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of like Quint's story in Jaws, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we all grab each other, hold each other, and it's about 35-40 minutes for this storm to pass and for us to feel safe enough to get back in the metal boat to take the boat back to land. But, like, that was something else. I
That's
gotta be honest.
intense.
Yeah, it would be one thing if the kids weren't there, but they were.
Yeah.
And so just, like, hyper vigilant, like, I'm checking the water for sharks, making sure nobody's getting up in our grill, and we've
Like,
survived.
how was the water? Like, was the water like, is it really sketchy, or are you close enough to shore that it's not that big a concern? Like, with the
It's
storm coming
not,
in?
I mean, it's Maria is surrounded by a reef,
I see. So
so
it's
it's
never going
not
to get.
like
Yeah.
it's never gonna the wave, like, there isn't really wave action. You get a little
Okay.
bit of tidal change, but it's so good for kids
Yeah,
in
that
that
sounds good.
regard. And good for coral reefs in that regard. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it's a heavily studied island just because it's so there aren't many that have that reef break all the way around it.
Yeah. 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 That's
So,
awesome.
like, the
Okay.
movie Moana, I think that's, they based it off of that island.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's my story of the time that we almost got shocked
That's
in a
nuts.
boat in
Yeah.
the middle of the South Pacific.
Intense,
Yeah,
but how lovely,
I know.
nonetheless. That's great.
Yeah,
Okay. So I think we're going to start wrapping things up here.
you got to do your joy, dude.
I was going to ask you first. I was leading into it. I was going to set you up for it first. I have one for this week. I've been thinking about it.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask Beth first. Beth, what's bringing you joy?
What's bringing me joy? It's been a week, I'll tell you.
Mhm.
So I ordered a couple things just to keep the kids occupied during quarantine. So I got like, you can get these little pottery wheels
Mhm.
for kids. So I got one for my daughter, and then I got a magic set for my son.
Nice.
And just watching them, like, watching her, like, throw her first pot, watching him be so excited because he made a penny disappear in this, like, contraption, and, like, learned how to, like, just watching them discover new things that they never knew existed
Mhm.
is pretty cool. I'm also realizing I get a lot of joy from other people's joy, like
Yeah,
watching other people
I hear you.
experience things. And so I'd like to do a little bit more, like, I would like to turn that my way a little bit more, if that makes sense. Like,
I hear
I
you.
want to redirect that joy about things that, like, I'm experiencing.
Yeah,
So
that's a good goal to have, I think. Yeah, I can relate to that.
What about you?
What about me? So yes, I know what it was. So the thing that's bringing me joy, and it's kind of a continual source of joy for me since I discovered it, is so have you heard of a movie called RRR?
No,
Okay. So I'd always
like
been,
letter RRR.
yeah. So I'd always been trying to find a way into, like, Indian cinema, and had never quite
Oh
figured it out.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this film only came out, I think it's about a year old, I think now, maybe 2 years. I'm not too sure exactly. And I was hearing, like, raves about it and how incredible it was. And I finally, like, put it on. It was on Netflix, and I think it maybe still is on Netflix. So
Okay.
I like put it on, and it was like, it's a 3 hour long movie, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. But, like, I'd say 20 minutes into it, I mean, probably even earlier than that, I was like, I'm all in. I'm watching all 3 hours of this, and I loved it, every second of it. But this one is kind of unusual. There is musical stuff in it, but it's not as music based as some other sort of Indian, a lot of sort of Indian movies. But there's one sort of set piece song that happens out halfway through the movie called Nachu Nachu, and the video for that is on YouTube. And last week I was just feeling a bit low, and whatever reason it occurred to me, and I watched it, and it just made me so just the whole thing from beginning to end just is just pure joy for me, and it never fails to make me happy. I'm going to send it to you after this.
Please do. I'll post it for everybody.
And one of my friends, recently I was said to him, dude, we need to learn at least some of the dance from this, and then we could just bust it out at some point at some sort of future social gathering. But yeah, it's pretty wonderful.
It's amazing. I remember dancing to Jai Ho in Zumba with my father-in-law, and I love that song. And yeah, I'm gonna check this out.
Yeah, dude.
RRR.
Yeah, the song's Nacho Nacho. Yeah, the movie's RRR. Yeah, I really like it because I just like how, I don't know, it just keeps topping itself. Every like element of the film, there's accent, there's sequences in that film that if like one of them was in a film, I would think it was amazing. But it has 8 of these, but it's like I can't believe what I'm seeing on screen, and I'm loving it. Great.
Good. I love it.
But yeah, so that's what's been bringing me joy over the past week, and I think it's a good well to go back to whenever I'm feeling a wee bit low. So yeah, folks, if you're looking for something to make you happy and you haven't heard this before, just do we search for Nacho Nacho. It's search wise, it's often NAATU, and that twice. But if you just type in Nacho Nacho as in like NACHO, you'll probably find it as well.
Okay, cool. I have on our website, I have a things to make you laugh page. So I will make sure that this gets added for things that along with
I think
shoes and G.I. Joe.
Yeah. I think people will laugh. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
But we'll also bring them joy as well.
Good. All right. Laughter and joy. You're welcome, everyone.
Right? We're bringing it for you as always. But that's been great, folks. So I think we're coming to the end of our show for this week. And as always, we'd like to remind you, if you could, please subscribe, like, all of the above on any of the platforms that you use. We would really appreciate it.
Very much.
Yeah.
Please.
And then, and I guess we're going to remind you, as always. Or was there anything else we need to say, actually, before we get into this?
No, I think that's good. Okay. Begging and then
please. All right, folks. Then, as always, we like to remind you to stay bendy. That was pretty good. It was not bad. Bye.
Bye.